Hi, Bob Allen here for KDTV.com, and we're privileged to be sitting in the room with a good friend of mine, Roger Richmond. And Roger, rather than me tell all about who Roger Richmond is, we see the Marilyns sitting in front of you. Tell us a little story about who you are, where you came from, and how this whole thing has come about.
I got to Hollywood working in the film industry in 1976 with a cousin, and the government changed the tax shelter laws, so financing became very difficult and as of October 76. And I started looking for something to do. And I went to trade shows, the gift shows in downtown Los Angeles, and I saw that the licensing businesses could be a great place to be, but I had no clients. And then one day, the grandson of W.C. Fields called me, Everett Fields, said, "We're looking for a new agent." And I said, "Well, what's there to represent? W.C. Fields died 36 years ago. No one knows who he is except they know him for his drinking. And thank you for calling, but I'm not interested." That was May 1989. I floundered around for 6 months until one day the California Supreme Court handed down a decision, an 80-page decision, which I didn't understand then, and I probably wouldn't understand today, that said that a family does not have any rights to protect the persona of their celebrity kin. Celebrity, persona meaning name, voice, likeness, signature, image, photograph. And in that 80-page decision, I did find one paragraph which said, however, this decision does not prevent a family from protecting their kin's rights if they can establish that the celebrity, while alive, created a common law trademark. And I didn't know, after law school, didn't know what a common law trademark was. I know what a statutory trademark was, which you pay a few dollars and you hire a trademark lawyer and you get a certificate in Washington, which is good for 10 years. And I soon found out that a common law trademark was usage. Well, coincidentally, W.C. Fields, who was a great showman, a great pitchman, actually in 1917 or 1918 came out with a line of men's cologne. So thereby creating the beginning of a commercial name. In 1938, he came out with an F&B doll, which is then one of the most popular dolls, and then they actually came out with another W.C. Fields doll in 1985 or something, and thereby further bolstering this common law trademark. So despite the decision which held against other families because their families didn't do merchandising, the celebrities basically didn't do merchandising then, and today a lot of the big celebrities refuse to do merchandising. It's beneath them in one way or another. And so I called up the family and I said, now I'll represent you, because the 100th anniversary of the birth of W.C. Fields was coming on January 30th of 1990. And I figured, well, there's something to hang my hat on. Now I have a law protecting me. Now I have a name. Now I'm broke and struggling in a shack in Hollywood. Very coincidentally, very fortuitously, the U.S. Postal Service announced a commemorative stamp honoring the 100th anniversary of the birth of W.C. Fields, coming in January 30th, 1980. So I quickly did a contract with the Fields family that lasted for 22 years, and then a handshake after that. And I picked up the phone and I called the U.S. Postal Service. I called William F. Bulger, the Postmaster General of the United States, and I spoke to his secretary, and I said, "Can I speak to William F. Bulger, please?" In my oldest 27-year-old voice. And she said, "I'm sorry, he's not here now. Can I help you?" She was very professional, and she treated me like every other scumbag that lost a letter in the mail that day. I gave her the message that you can't come out with those 174 million W.C. Fields commemorative stamps that you announced the other day. And she said, "I'll talk to the Postmaster General and give you the message. He didn't promise he was going to call me back, but I'll give you the message. And the next day, William J. Jones, the general counsel of the Postal Service, called, said, "Who are you? And this is preposterous. We've never paid a license for a commemorative stamp in our lives." I said, "Yes, but in California, there's now a trademark law saying that you can't do that, and you're a quasi-governmental organization. You can't hide behind any anti-tort laws. And I found out that you have your own licensing division, and you're doing cufflinks and glassware and curtains and trays, and you're in the merchandising business, and you have to pay us a royalty for that stamp." Well, as a young, struggling nobody, I quickly calculated that 174 million times 15 cents a stamp, which is the price then, times 10% royalty, hey, I could be doing okay for a change.
It's a little change.
A little change. However, they said, if you dare charge us a royalty for that stamp, or try to charge us a royalty for that stamp, we'll burn all 174 million which have already been printed. Well, I knew the family wanted the honor of having a commemorative stamp. And so I worked out a deal where they paid me 50% of their average income of their usually 22 commemorative stamps every year. So I got a check for $2,065, which I still have photostated and hanging on my wall, along with a letter from the Postmaster General, you know, here's your check, and
Wow.
I'll never want W.C. Fields to tweak our noses again and stuff like that. And that was the beginning of the licensing industry of deceased celebrities. I call them legends. And here we are today.
I heard another name on, I guess it was 60 Minutes. They're now calling them D-Lebs?
D-Lebs. That's kind of
Is
a
that
new
the
word.
New,
Yeah, dead celebrities,
yeah.
because as you know from Michael Jackson's stories, and you know, hundreds of millions of dollars.
So actually, we could relate back that everything that you've done started from W.C. Fields' Cologne in 1917 being the start, the actual start and reason that all of the dead celebrity commemoratives now require some sort of licensing agreement.
Well, that's true, except
There was more to it.
there was more to it, because my licensing program got very large. I ended up with 37 licensees with W.C. Fields, and then other celebrity families came to me that didn't have this merchandising, common law trademark merchandising in their lifespans. So I realized that in order to maintain my foothold in my shack in Hollywood, I'd have to write a law. So I talked to the W.C. Fields grandson, Everett Fields. He says, "Well, go ahead, Roger, write a law." I said, "You're going to help us pay for it?" He says, "No, you do it." I said,
Is that
"What
what
do
the
you-"
$2,000 you
Yeah.
just got?
I said, "What do you mean? I mean, you think I'm the Pope?" And he says, "Yeah, go ahead." So I went ahead. I called John Wayne, the son of I'm called Michael Wayne, the son of John Wayne, and we started collaborating together, and I ended up co-authoring the California Celebrity Rights Law, which was enacted in January 1st, 1985, after a 2-year battle in Sacramento against all the broadcasters and the film studios and the big merchandising agencies. And essentially said, without permission, no one is allowed to advertise an item or a celebrity or produce an item without permission of the family of the celebrity. So that was the beginning of the celebrity rights laws in the United States.
Wow. And you go back in history with some of the celebrities that you've represented, and I know one that I still remember seeing the picture of you as a child in Albert Einstein's arms, and it's probably as touching a picture. So what was your association with the Albert Einstein family that brought them into
Well,
doing
my
some things?
father was a rabbi. We lived in Washington, D.C. He was an administrative rabbi later in his life, and he became the membership director of the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith. And then it was the 1930s and 1940s when Hitler was rearing his ugly head, and there was a lot of anti-Semitism in the United States government and among the United States businesses, country clubs, companies, and around the world. And so my father went around and he was working on legislation to prevent anti-Semitic leanings towards all the government and other people. He used one of the most prominent Jews there was in America, which is Albert Einstein. He was a simple physicist. I still remember the pictures of him getting off the ship in 1933, bewildered by hundreds of photographers because he had written this general theory of relativity.
Equal MC squared.
I know, but no one even understood it. But because he was so famous, he was, you know, a genius and all that. So my father worked with him, and then when the War of Independence came in Israel in 1948, the U.S. government refused to recognize the new state of Israel. And my father took Einstein and lobbied the U.S. government, the Congress, the U.S. government, to get the government's approval to enact, to recognize the state of Israel. Interestingly, some years later, I was lobbying the senators, the legislators in Sacramento to get the California celebrity rights law enacted. And I went up there with a whole troop of Michael Wayne, who I mentioned, and Bill Marks, the son of Harpo Marx, and Everett Fields, the grandson of W.C. Fields, and Abbott and Costello family. And we all went up in a troop and walked from door to door to door, lobbying for this new law that I had introduced. We had a lot of opposition, but it finally passed and was enacted, as I said, in January 1985.
It wasn't in 1985 that that law was passed, and that is probably going to be a great time if we could take a moment and just take a break and listen to some of the sponsors who make these broadcasts possible. We're going to come back and talk about a couple of the things and one of the most famous celebrities of what we have in front of us, my Marilyn. So we'll be right back.
Okay.